You can be attracted to someone without wanting them. You can smile when everyone else says they're hot. You can flirt because flirting seems expected. You can say, "I'd totally go for them," while something inside you remains completely still. And eventually, you start wondering whether you are missing something everyone else was born knowing. That is where the performance begins. Not because you are lying. Not because you want attention. Not because you are confused about your identity. Because sometimes, pretending to feel attraction is easier than explaining why you don't. For a demisexual person, attraction can become less about desire and more about social survival. You learn the script. Who is attractive? Who you are supposed to want? When you are supposed to have a crush? How excited you should sound? How quickly you should know whether you want someone? And when your internal experience doesn't match the script, you may start performing the reaction instead. Quietly, almost automatically. Someone shows you a picture. Would you date them? You pause for half a second. Then you choose the safest answer. Yeah, they're cute. Conversation moves on. But something important happened in that tiny moment. You edited yourself. Most people never notice how exhausting that can become. Because attraction is treated like a universal language. Everyone is expected to understand it instinctively. Someone walks into a room, and apparently your brain is supposed to deliver an immediate verdict. Yes, no, hot, not hot, would, wouldn't. But what happens when your mind doesn't work that way? What happens when physical appearance can register as beauty without producing sexual attraction? What happens when emotional connection matters so much that desire doesn't arrive first? You can understand why someone is attractive. You just don't necessarily experience attraction toward them. And that distinction can be brutally difficult to explain in a culture obsessed with instant chemistry. Dating apps make this even stranger. Swipe left, swipe right, match, flirt, hook up, repeat. The entire system is built around rapid evaluation. A face appears. Within seconds, you are encouraged to decide whether this person is desirable enough to enter your emotional world. But demisexuality can make that entire process feel backwards. Because for some demisexual people, attraction isn't the door into intimacy. Intimacy is the environment in which attraction might eventually appear. That changes everything. It means you can match with someone and feel nothing. Not rejection, not disgust, nothing. And then you may start questioning yourself. Why don't I feel what I'm supposed to feel? That question can become dangerous. Because when your feelings don't arrive on schedule, you may start manufacturing evidence that they exist. You tell your friends you like them because admitting, "I don't know," feels embarrassing. And sometimes you even enter relationships hoping attraction will eventually catch up. That is where performance becomes more than social camouflage. It becomes self-confusion. You are no longer only convincing other people. You are trying to convince yourself. Maybe this is attraction. Maybe I just need more time. Maybe I'm being too picky. Maybe everyone feels this way. Maybe I'm broken. Maybe I need to try harder. Notice what happened. A difference in how you experience attraction quietly became a problem you felt responsible for fixing. That is the psychological damage of feeling abnormal. You don't always rebel against the expectation. Sometimes you adapt to it. You become good at producing the correct emotional response. And because nobody can see the difference between genuine attraction and performed attraction from the outside, people may assume you're experiencing exactly what they are. That assumption can make you feel even more alone, because you are surrounded by conversations about desire while privately trying to understand your own absence of it. And then comes comparison. You listen. You nod. You perform recognition. But internally you are thinking, how are you already feeling this? That question can create shame. Not because there is anything wrong with you, but because modern culture has quietly taught people that fast attraction is proof of being emotionally alive. And eventually, you may start using their vocabulary against yourself. Maybe I'm too difficult. Maybe I don't give people a chance. Maybe I expect too much. Maybe I need to become more normal. That last thought is the one worth examining. Because normal is often just another word for what everyone around me appears to be doing. And appearances are deceptive. Some people aren't expressing attraction because they feel it intensely. They're expressing it because they learned that this is how socially acceptable desire is supposed to sound. That doesn't mean everyone is pretending. It means social behavior can become rehearsed long before we understand why we're doing it. For a demisexual person, that rehearsal can become especially convincing. You may become incredibly fluent in attraction without actually experiencing it the way people assume. You learn the performance so well that people stop questioning it. Eventually, you may stop questioning it too, until someone actually gets close. Not physically, emotionally. They listen. They remember something insignificant you said weeks ago. They make you feel psychologically safe. You trust them. You become emotionally connected. And suddenly something changes. The person who looked ordinary from across the room doesn't feel ordinary anymore. Their voice feels different. Their presence carries weight. Touch means something it didn't mean before. And that can create another kind of confusion, because now you finally understand what attraction feels like for you. And you realize how many times you previously called something attraction simply because everyone else did. That realization can hurt. This is where demisexuality can collide with attachment, loneliness, and validation. Because sometimes being desired feels comforting even when you don't desire the person back. Someone wants you. Someone texts you constantly. Someone thinks you're beautiful. Someone is sexually interested in you. And for a moment you feel valuable. So you may perform attraction because their desire gives you something you desperately needed. Confirmation. Proof that you're wanted. Proof that you're normal. Proof that you're not behind everyone else. But validation and attraction are not the same experience. And confusing them can keep you inside relationships that feel emotionally safe on the surface while something essential remains missing underneath. That is why the most painful part isn't always not feeling attraction. Sometimes it's feeling pressured to demonstrate attraction you don't genuinely experience. You become an emotional actor in your own relationships. And the more convincing you become, the harder it gets to tell where the performance ends. This is the hidden trap. When you repeatedly perform attraction, people begin responding to the version of you they believe is real. They expect more flirting, more sexual interest, more physical initiation, more certainty. And now you're trapped between two fears. Tell the truth and disappoint them, or continue performing and disappear inside the relationship. So you keep editing. A little more enthusiasm here. A little more flirting there. A carefully chosen compliment. A delayed confession. A fake excitement. Nothing dramatic. Just hundreds of tiny moments where you choose social comfort over emotional accuracy. That changes a person. Quietly. Because eventually, you stop asking, what do I actually feel? You start asking, what response will make this situation easier? That is no longer attraction. That's survival. And perhaps the deepest realization is this: you were never necessarily failing at attraction. You may have been trying to succeed at a system that was never designed around the way you experience desire. You don't owe the world instant chemistry. You don't owe someone sexual excitement because they are objectively attractive. You don't have to manufacture a crush because your friends think you would make a perfect couple. And you don't have to turn emotional connection into a performance just to prove that your identity is legitimate. Because demisexuality isn't the absence of humanity. It isn't emotional deficiency. It isn't a failure to participate in desire. It is one way a human being can experience attraction. Slowly, conditionally, through connection, and sometimes not at all. The tragedy is that many people spend years trying to imitate a feeling they were never supposed to experience on command. They learn how to look attracted, but never learn how to listen to themselves. So maybe the real question isn't, why can't I feel attraction like everyone else? Maybe it's, how much of my attraction have I been performing because I was afraid my real experience wouldn't be accepted? That question is uncomfortable, but it can also be freeing. Because the moment you stop performing normality, you finally get the chance to discover what your own desire actually sounds like. And maybe it doesn't arrive instantly. Maybe it doesn't look like a swipe. Maybe it doesn't begin with someone's body. Maybe it begins with trust, conversation, recognition, safety, a connection that slowly becomes impossible to fake. And when it happens, you won't need to perform it. You won't need to convince yourself. You won't need an audience. You'll know. Because for once, the feeling won't be something you learn to imitate. It will be something that actually belongs to you,